Hello, and welcome to Central Booking, where writers and readers are the authority. I'm your host, John Valeri. Today on Central Booking, I'm traveling through the Zoomiverse to Canada for a sit-down with Amazon best-selling author Russell Brooks. Russell's newest novel, Jam Run, the second book to feature thriller author turned unwitting sleuth Eddie Barrow, was published earlier this year. Inspired by a tragic true crime, the story finds Eddie and his best friend Corey Stephenson in Jamaica, where they've witnessed a terrifying and potentially hate-fueled murder. Implored by the victim's young sister to get justice for her brother, Eddie and Corey become embroiled in a web of corruption, prejudice, and violence that has international implications. Will they escape with their lives, or simply become another statistic? In addition to Jam Run's predecessor, Chill Run, Russell is also the author of the Ridley Fox Nita Paris series, which includes the titles Pandora's Succession, Unsavory Delicacies, and The Demeter Code. He attended Indiana University on a track and field scholarship, graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and a minor in psychology. Beyond the athletics stage, Russell's talents also include music. In addition to his affinity for the violin, he plays the piano, viola, bassoon, and electric bass guitar. In other words, he's a true Renaissance man. Russell's dexterous nature is on full display in Jam Run, which melds intellectual suspense and visceral thrills to pulse-pounding effect. CTV News Montreal's Mutsumi Takahashi called the book a wild ride across Jamaica with a mix of sex, criminal networks, murder, and mayhem. Now, allow Russell Brooks to be your guide as we enter the compelling world of Jam Run, where inner light cannot be dimmed by outer darkness. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Central Booking. My guest today is critically acclaimed thriller author Russell Brooks, whose newest book, Jam Run, there it is available right now. It's the second Eddie Barrow mystery after Chill Run. Welcome to the show, Russell.
Hello, good afternoon. It's great to be here. It's nice to see you again. Finally, actually talk to you for the first time because we've never spoken before to each other, and I guess we have to thank Zoom for virtual, because back when we first made contact was back in around 2009 when you were writing for, what was the name of that digital
Books Examiner.com.
Examiner, yes. When I was looking for book reviewers, and that's how I found you, and here you are today with a bigger platform right now. Congratulations on that.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. Well, here you are today with a bigger book. You know, your list is growing and growing. It's odd because it's been over a decade, and I swear you don't look like you've aged. So you're going to have to tell me what the secret is because, I have not found it.
Well, it's very simple. Black don't crack.
Oh, well, then I'm just, frankly, I'm screwed. What am I going to do? That I cannot change. All right, so I want to start. I have to ask you about Jam Run, and I love the title because, again, it's one of those things that seems really simple and catchy, and then the more you read and the more you think about it, there really can be a lot of subtext there. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind using that title, Jam Run, as an entry point, and then telling us what the basic premise or elevator pitch for this book is. Straight from your mouth to my ears.
Okay, well, if I were to ask you, let's say, imagine you witnessed a hate crime, a horrific hate crime, and when you're giving your statement to the police, you feel that they are not taking you seriously, if not even mocking you. What would you do?
Well, I'd be like, man, I'm in a jam, and now I'm probably going to run.
Well, this is the story of Eddie Barrow, where he is now, compared to Chill Run, he's now an established author, and he was only in Jamaica with his best friend Corey for a book signing. That's it. They're supposed to be in Montego Bay and then go to Kingston. And on their very first night, Corey is the one that talked Eddie into going out to go out to a party, and not to the tourist areas. He wanted to go to the real Jamaica, okay, and not be around the tourists. He want to get Corey wants to be in the real Jamaica, so they go outside of Montego Bay to the Irwin area, which is just in the hills behind, or I should say a little bit south of Montego Bay. And I have to say, I actually went to Irwin. I've actually visited Irwin last January when I visited Jamaica for the first time. And I have to say that neighborhood is that I didn't feel very safe. And even my friend who was driving me around, Norris Douglas of Realtors Jamaica, he helped me with Jam Run with all the Jamaican content, everything from the food, the patois, to basically everything Jamaican in the story. When he was driving me through that area, he even told me, Russell, this is not an area that I would want to be caught wandering about by myself, okay? Because the locals, they'll look at me and they'll know that I'm a foreigner right away, especially when I start speaking, because they'll pick up the Bayesian accent right away and know, oh, this guy from Barbados, or
Right.
you know, or but he a foreigner. That's what they'll say, and I'd be an easy target for, I don't know, I'd be God knows what. But anyways, that's basically it. So what is I forgot the last part you were saying there. What do you want to know?
Oh no, I think you covered it. Just basically how Jam Run sort of summarizes the plot of this book, which I
Okay.
think you've gotten. But I do want to ask you too. It's obviously a novel, it's fiction, but the book was inspired by a true crime, really the brutal death of Dwayne Jones. So I'm wondering if you can tell us why that case resonated with you, and then how the victim in your book, Dwayne Pottinger, also known as Shanice, how this book stands in tribute, and that character stands in tribute to the real Dwayne.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you realize it today, but today, July 21st, okay, today is the 10th anniversary from the day that Dwayne Jones was murdered. Okay, he was murdered on this day, okay, in 2013, July 21st, 2013. And what happened was is that I was still writing the Demeter Code at the time. Yes, 2013, I would have been putting the finishing touches or doing the last edits of the Demeter Code, which came out in 2014. And it was around that time, yes, it would have been around that time that I was, I was reading the news, and I saw this news article, and it was picked up by several newspapers in Canada, in Great Britain, in the United States, and even today, I was online and I spotted an article from the Sydney Herald Times in Australia. That murder made shockwaves around the world. And when I read that about this young teenager, a young Jamaican gay teenager who attended a night part, like a dance party in the Irwin area of Jamaica, he was dressed as a woman, and the thing is that nobody knew at first. No one knew that this was a guy, and he was enjoying himself. And of course, from what I read, his two roommates, who were two trans women as well, they were cautioning him not to do this. You are risking your life going to a straight party dressed as a woman. And from what I've read, is that Dwayne Jones, he was headstrong and he wanted to make a point. He wanted to stand out, and he didn't want. He was basically maybe a little bit too fearless, and he showed up anyways. No one knew that he was a guy, but then Dwayne recognized a girl from his church, and he made the fatal mistake in confiding in her, and she outed him to her male friends who were at that party. And that's when things went downhill. There was a confrontation out in the parking lot outside the bar, or the club where they were, and things escalated. And I think he managed to escape at first, but then there was a mob, and he managed to get away from the mob. But the next morning, his body was found on the side of the road, which would have been Pega Road, which is in the story because I made a point of researching the exact location where Dwayne Jones was murdered, and put that in the first chapter of Jam Run. So he was found on the next morning. He was found on the side of the road. He had been beaten. He had been stabbed, shot, and run over with a vehicle. Now, I mean, you have to be a seriously disturbed, very deranged psychopath to do that to another human being. I mean, it's not, I tell people it's not the fact that he got murdered, it's also the way that he got murdered. I mean, it was so uncalled for. And that's what really shook me. And what was even worse is that there were well over 300 people reportedly at this dance party, and no one saw a thing. Everyone was tight-lipped. No, no, we didn't see a thing. Okay, and I believe that combined with well, it was no secret. I'm convinced the police or the detectives who were involved in the investigation of this murder, they said it's just another gay person got killed. We don't care. Let's move on. We have more bigger cases to solve. Okay. No one was invested. Very few people were interested in getting justice for Dwayne Jones. Okay. And it was so bad that even his parents did not even claim his body, if you can imagine that, because he had been kicked out. He'd been kicked out of his house when he was a teenage, when he was younger. He was kicked out, and he had to face a gauntlet of the people in his neighborhood as he left. I mean, and he wound up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he actually ended up living on the streets at one time until he made friends with the two trans women that he ended up living with in a derelict neighborhood in Albion. Okay, and that's the Albion community, which is also part of Montego Bay, and I also feature that area in Jam Run as well. So that all of that, you know, it just got to me, and it was in my head for days upon days upon days. And all I can say is that, you know, I was thinking, could I write a story about this? Could I make a crime novel about this? And I was thinking, well, I was saying, how could I incorporate this into a Ridley Fox, Nita Paris story? Because at the time when I wrote Chill Run back in 2011, when Chill Run came out in 2011, when I wrote Chill Run, I never intended this to be a series. It was only meant to be a standalone, and it was just some crazy idea that just came into my head as I was driving one afternoon, and like poof, just like that, the idea for Chill Run came just like that, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this could be a great story." And I wrote down the notes before I forgot them, and when I got home, I started writing, but I said to myself, it was never intended to be a sequel. There was never going to be a sequel to Chill Run. It's just going to be a standalone, and I was going to continue to develop another Nita Paris Ridley Fox story. But it just, but I then remembered that there were several people who did write me who read Chill Run and enjoyed Chill Run and asked if there was going to be a sequel. When's there going to be a sequel? And I kept on telling them it's only a standalone. Okay. I want to develop Nita Paris and Ridley Fox even more because I feel there's more stories for that to tell. But hey, as I say never. And I'm saying to myself, well, no, this would not be, I can't fit this into a spy novel. The CIA would not be in Jamaica investigating a murder of that sort. How could I incorporate this into, let's say, like a spy thriller or something of that nature there? But then it came to my mind and said, what if I bring back Eddie Barrow? Eddie Barrow is now an established author, and let's say that he was in Jamaica, maybe, I don't know, maybe on vacation, maybe for a book signing, and he just happens to be in that area, and he witnesses the murder himself. Okay, and I'm saying to myself, okay, that could work. You have a foreigner, a Canadian born, someone who is Canadian born, of Barbadian ancestry. His best friend Corey is Trinidadian, and I'm saying if they were to go to Jamaica, what trouble could they possibly get into? And I said to myself, that's when the idea came, and I just ran with it. And you know, the more I studied, the more I researched Dwayne Jones and a few other stories. As I researched Dwayne Jones, I stumbled on other stories that came out of Jamaica that did not, that one of them made major headlines, okay? I'm not going to give you the spoiler, okay? But it involves a helicopter, okay? That should give you a hint. But yeah, I was saying myself, I stumbled onto other stories and I said myself, well, there is a story to tell here. And I said, look, this will have to be my next story. This would have to be my next project after finishing the Demeter Code. So once the Demeter Code was out, I had to take several months, I have to give my brain a rest because I'm still on the high. The novel's released, yay, you're on a big high, so I have to calm down so that I can concentrate and focus. And that's when I started to work on Jam Run. And the title came very easily. I said, okay, it's in Jamaica. I said, how could I, if I'm gonna do this, I have to find a branding. So the word run has to be in it. So I say, well, am I gonna call it Montego Run? Well, just keep it simple, call it Jam Run. It takes place in Jamaica, and Eddie and Corey are running for their lives. So Jam Run, boom. So
There you
yeah,
go. Well, that all just came full circle.
yeah.
And I have to say, one of the things I really enjoyed about what you did with the character of Dwayne is even though, this terrible thing happens to him in the first chapter, and obviously what happened in real life was the epitome of overkill, just horrific and senseless. But you meet Dwayne in this book, and even though he is a victim, he's also very much a character. And we see, the hope that he had, the talents that he had. And yes, he's a cautionary tale, but also you realize how many lives he actually did touch, in the few years that he got to live. And so there is a little bit of lightness and levity in that, even though what happened was so tragic. And I really appreciated that about the book because you get a full sense, of the character, not just as a victim, but as a living, breathing person who had a past. So I want people to know, obviously terrible things happen, but there's much more to this story. And I did want to ask you, sort of about the structure of a crime novel, because I think in a crime novel, you can really explore, groups that have been suppressed, that have been marginalized, the African American community, the LGBTQ plus community. And then I think fiction a lot of times makes that a bit more palatable for readers. So I'm wondering if you can talk about, how you broach sort of very topical, resonant issues, but through the lens of fiction so that people might, pick it up and be entertained, but also be enlightened at the same time.
Well, for me, it was important to it was very important for me to make Dwayne more than a victim. As you said, it was important to make him a real person, okay? Someone that people can empathize with, and also, also to break the stereotype that gay people are just out there to party and they don't work, they don't have any dreams, okay? As you see in the book, Dwayne Jones, he had dreams, and he was very talented as well. He had dreams of being a fashion designer, and making it big. And that was all cut short. I'm not going to reveal any spoilers, but I don't know if I'm sure some people in the LGBTQ community would have picked up on the name Dwayne Pottinger, because I could have called him Dwayne Jones, but I didn't want to call him Dwayne Jones. I call him Dwayne Pottinger, and of course, Dwayne Pottinger was an aspiring fashion designer. Now, why did I choose the name Pottinger? Pottinger was Dwayne Pottinger is a little bit of a mix between Dwayne Jones and the fashion designer, the Jamaican fashion designer, Dexter Pottinger, who was also murdered. And he was on his way, but he was murdered as well. I'm not going to go into I don't know if I should go into the story. It was just, he was with another guy, and they were just at his house one afternoon, and I guess there was some there were some mixed signals or something like that. I don't know, because I can't tell you what was going on in the killer's head, okay, at the time. But there may have been some mixed signals and or misinterpretations, and this guy thought that Dexter was coming on to him, and he reacted by killing him. And fortunately, that guy was caught. And when the guy, the guy said that, he gave an excuse. I didn't know that Dexter was gay. No one believed him, because anyone who's been around Dexter Pottinger would know that he's gay. Okay, so no one was buying that story. And that guy, fortunately, he was arrested. He was put in jail, in prison. So yeah, that's why I chose the name Pottinger, and I decided to. Dexter Pottinger's story was a bit of an inspiration for the for the Dwayne Pottinger character. I wanted him to be a real person. As I said, a real person with dreams. He's not the stereotype. He was very well loved by a lot of people, even though he was hated by most. Okay. And he had the same rough struggle as Dwayne Pottinger did. He was kicked out of his house. Okay. The only difference in Jamrun is that I modified the backstory a little bit, because in the story, I don't know if Dwayne Jones had a sister, but in this story, Dwayne Pottinger had a younger sister who believed in him and who was not homophobic like his parents were. And I wanted to bring that detail. I wanted to show both sides of Jamaica. Not everyone in Jamaica is homophobic. Okay, there are many people in Jamaica who are progressive, and they want to see the government strike down the buggery law. Okay, the buggery law, which has been there in place since the colonial era, and it's amazing. I find it a bit hypocritical of nations in the Caribbean that they're all for abolishing slavery, and they want to get rid of the queen, but they still want to keep certain laws, okay, that were there from the colonial era. They still want to hang on to some of those laws there. And that's something I find very, very sad, unfortunately. It's very sad. So that's what I wanted to show, and I want the readers to see that when they read Jamrun, okay, yes, there's going to be moments that they're going to be upset. There are going to be moments that they're going to be sad. There are going to be moments that they're also going to laugh. But most importantly, I want readers to emphasize with the characters, because I have LGBTQ characters, and I have straight characters, I have allies, and I have enemies. Okay, I did in my research. I try to fit it as much as I can to tell the story. As you see this, how big this book is. I was even surprised when I received that book in the mail. When I ordered the first copies for the book launch, I said, "My goodness, I didn't think that the book was this big." But yeah.
So right, I was telling you before we started recording, it reads like fire.
Yeah.
I allotted myself, I think, something like 6 days, and I was like, if I can pace myself and read 100 pages a day, I'll be done well before we speak. And I told you it took like 3.5 days, because once you start turning pages, like you'll be astounded how quickly you find yourself at the end of the book. But you already answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you, why you were inspired to revisit, Eddie and Corey all these years later, but you said it sort of just worked better for the story that you wanted to tell. But I'm wondering, for readers who aren't familiar with those characters, can you just, give us the setup of their dynamic? Because there's so much drama going on in this book, but then you have these guys, these friends. It's really like a brotherhood, and there's so much heart and humor there, but also the harrowing portion where they care so deeply about what's happening to the other. And so the book is also very much grounded in their relationship.
Yeah, well, Corey and Eddie, for those who didn't read Chill Run, I'm not going to give you the spoilers, but um, as I think I said this earlier, Eddie Barrow, he was born in Montreal, and his family is from Barbados, and he was sort of like the black sheep of the family. He was an aspiring author. He had dreams, and no one believed in, very few people believed in him, and he was at the lowest point in his life. And even his parents didn't know why is he hanging around with Corey. Corey is not going anywhere in life, you know. And at the time, Corey was even at a low point in his life because he tried out, he auditioned for Canadian Idol, okay, and everything was going well for him, but then there was a surprise guest judge. I just, I didn't name, I didn't give the judge a name. I just said the British guy paid a surprise visit, and you know, Corey froze, and everything fell apart. And of course, he was dubbed as the worst singer in Canada, and of course, he couldn't leave the house without someone recognizing him because the audition was so bad it went viral around the world, and you know he couldn't keep a job, and he turned to alcohol, and he was always at the strip club where his then girlfriend worked at the time, and he was behind on the rent, and of course Eddie, his life wasn't getting any better. He lost his job. He was laid off from his job, and he lost his girlfriend on the same day. And he gets home to find eviction notices on the front door. So yeah, so I mean, and everyone's as wondering why is Eddie, you know, who went to school, he went to school, he had, you know, his parents are saying, look, we put you through school and everything like that, and you're throwing your life away, and you're hanging around with this ruffian Corey. But then, you know, of course, the readers are probably wondering why would Eddie, okay, who is the complete opposite of Corey, okay? Corey's the ladies' man. Eddie's the little nerd, okay, who's always in a his head is always in a book and all that. He can't get the same girls like like Corey does, okay. And I even mentioned that Corey can just talk and charm the panties off of any girl he wants, any woman he wants. And so everyone's wondering, I'm sure the readers are wondering, okay, why would Eddie hang around with someone like that? It's an odd couple. But then I reveal the point when they were younger, the time when Eddie was on his way home and he made a shortcut through the park one winter, and he got ambushed by a group of skinheads, and they attacked him. Corey was there. Corey just happened to be there, and Corey single-handedly fought them off. There were about 3 or 4 of them, and Corey fought them off. Okay, and that's how they met. So, of course, Corey saved Eddie's life that evening. So, of course, this is something that Eddie could never forget. And you know, even though Eddie wasn't the cool guy, I mean, sorry, Eddie. Even though Eddie wasn't the cool guy, you know, Corey was able to see beyond that and saw him as, you know, saw him like, you're cool to me. Let's be friends, and they've been best friends ever since. So yeah, even though both of them are having their struggles, they still have each other's backs no matter what.
Sure. It's so rich, and there's such a great loyalty there. And, you know, those are the kinds of characters that you're going to keep coming back for. But, you know, I have to, of course, ask you this because, like you, Eddie is a crime novelist, and, you know, his readers really revere him. And then other people can't really figure him out and don't necessarily take him seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, can you tell me what of your own experiences as an author are you able to filter through Eddie's character and experiences?
Well, when I was in high school, I was the nerd. I was the guy that the last person that someone would choose on the basketball team in gym class. I was that type of guy as well. I wasn't Mr. Popular. Okay, I'm only 5'7.5". And back then, when I was in high school, I was only like 125, 130 pounds. I was very, very thin, very bony, very skinny. And but on the other hand, I I had talents in music. I played 5 musical instruments at the same time. I was I was the top track athlete in the province of Quebec. So every track meet, I never lost. once I got into, I think once I got to grade 8, okay, I never lost a single race in in the Montreal area. Every race every track meet I went to, I never lost a race. And I also did long jump and triple jump, the hurdles, and I was always the anchor for the 4x100 relay team. So I, even though I was lacking in certain areas, okay, even though I didn't get a lot of respect in many areas, but when it came to track and field and music, I gained a lot of respect from a lot of people who, let's say, didn't care much for me before, but once I was able to prove myself that like, I'm a person as well, and I was an honor student as well. So I remember there was one young girl who was like probably 2 or 3 grades below mine, who sent me a message once. I think she wrote it in my yearbook. Was it my year? I can't remember, but it was a young black girl, and she wrote and said, "Russell, I'm so proud that I met you. You defy you defy the stereotype of black people who can't accomplish anything. You are musically talented. You're a track athlete, okay, and you're an honor student at the same time. Okay, you've defied the stereotype, and you're an inspiration for me. Thank you." I mean, I never forgot those words.
That is such a great story. And now you write books too. I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
I actually started. Let me tell you something. I started writing my first book when I was in grade 7, and I stopped, I picked it up again, I stopped, and then I went to university and I completely forgot about it. And then after university, I read a book by Vince Flynn called Term Limits, and it was the first time I read this is the first time I read a spy type novel, okay, or a political thriller, and it was so gripping. And this is what inspired me to get back into to writing. And with my newfound knowledge, because I had a biology degree at this time here, so I had more knowledge, and I was able to go back that book, that manuscript, I should say, that I started when I was in high school. It evolved so much, and eventually in 2010, it's now known as Pandora's Succession.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's some follow through. All right. So I have to ask you, I'm going to jump ahead, but you mentioned that you are an athlete, a well-decorated athlete, a runner. You play 5 musical instruments. And for people who are wondering what they are, it's the violin, the piano, the viola, the bassoon, and the electric bass guitar. I mean, that is like well-rounded. I think a lot of people probably see these as like very separate or disparate disciplines, but I would assume that there's some relation to your writing too. So I'm wondering if you can talk about the interplay between all of these different creative or athletic pursuits and how they feed into one another.
Well, I've actually incorporated certain elements into my characters. Like, take for instance, Dr. Nita Paris, who was in Pandora Succession, and she comes back in the Demeter Code. She's a CIA operative. She's Barbadian. She was recruited into the CIA out of university. She was also a former track athlete, and also she's a scientist. Okay, she has 2 PhDs, one in biochemistry, and the other one is in microbiology. And she is kind of like the opposite of Ridley Fox. Ridley Fox has military experience. In fact, he was in the Joint Task Force 2, which is Canada's version of America's Navy of the SEALs. Okay, so he was a special forces operative, and he was recruited into the CIA after the murder of his fiance. And when the two meet, okay, they're kind of like when they first meet for the first time in Pandora's Succession, it's revealed that that they that they had met earlier, several months earlier or a couple of years earlier. They had known each other. Ridley Fox ended up standing up Nita Paris on a date, and she never forgot that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
She never forgot that, and she let him know it when they first met. So here they are. Here they are a few years later when they realize that they're both working for the CIA, and they're in Tokyo, Japan. They were there. Apparently, they were there on separate missions, but it was later revealed that their missions actually cross over, and that there's connections between the two. So they're forced to team up, put their differences aside, and team up. So yeah, I've incorporated that, and Eddie Barrow. Yeah, Eddie Barrow is an author, just like I am. His parents are from Barbados, just like my family's from Barbados also, and he lives in Montreal, just like I live in Montreal. So there's that aspect right there. That's basically about it. Okay, in terms of similarities between the two of us, I never took part in any or participated in any publicity stunt which involves S&M to gain the attention of an editor of a literary agent or a publisher, so I can sell my books, to them off of being famous. I never did anything like that. I had to do it the hard way. So
Well, I'm glad
I've
we
never
put
been
that to
framed for
rest.
murder either. So
None of that. All right. So I want to ask you, I'm going to show this book again. Like, look at this. This is great because it's a thick book. It was bigger than you thought it would be, you said.
yeah.
Actually, I should thank you because I inadvertently, one of my friends does an online, the big book summer challenge every year. It's my friend Sue Jackson. And I didn't know if I was going to participate this year because I didn't know if any of the books I was reading would be long enough. And then I met Jamrun, and I was like, I am so in this competition now.
Oh, sweet.
But is an author, is an athlete, is a musician. I think you probably know a little something about stamina and endurance. And so I want to ask you, when it comes to writing a book like this that is so deep and so long, one, how do you maintain the narrative momentum in the book itself? But then two, how do you maintain your own interest and engagement over the time it takes to complete a project like this?
Well, the first thing is that as I said, I mentioned this earlier. Writing Jamrun was personal for me. Okay, it was about the unsolved murder of Dwayne Jones. So, in this story, of course, I can say is that I believe in justice, and I really want to see justice for Dwayne Jones, even though it's 10 years, even though today is the 10th anniversary of his death. I want to see his killers brought to justice. Nobody should be allowed to get away with something that horrific. And for me, writing Jamrun, in a way, it was a way for me to, in an imaginary setting, bring justice for Dwayne Jones. So yeah, there is a big story to tell, but it's not just as you'll read the story, there's Dwayne Jones, but there are other elements of injustice in this story. The story deals with sexual assault. It deals with the hypocrisy of the church. Okay? The church saying you shouldn't live like that, you shouldn't be doing this. But look, the very same people who are saying you shouldn't be doing this or doing that, them are some of the most wicked people around imaginable. Okay? They are sexually assaulting children. They are grooming children to be sexually assaulted by others. Okay? They're doing unspeakable things, and it's now coming out right now. We now know what's been going on. Well, we've all heard rumors of what's been going on in the Catholic Church. Like here in Montreal, I remember years ago, I was watching, ironically, I was watching ABC. Okay. There's a show called Primetime Live with Sam Donaldson. Okay. I can't remember the female host. I forgot her name. But anyways, I recall I would have been in high school in the early. I think I would have been like around maybe like in my early teens at the time when I watched this episode. And the reason why it caught my attention is because they came to Quebec. Okay, they came to the province of Quebec where I live, and they were talking, and the topic was, the investigative news story was about the Grey Sisters. Okay, the Grey Nuns. Okay, and this is, I think these were incidents that took place, that would have taken place in the 1950s or the 1960s at the time, or even the 1940s. These nuns were sexually assaulting the children in the orphanage that they were running. Okay, and the news crew from Primetime Live, they were interviewing the victims. Okay, the victims were speaking out and telling and basically describing what was going on. And this was something that was a real eye opener for me, because I didn't know this was going on. We didn't learn about this in school, and I didn't know about. I never heard about this in the Canadian media. It took the American media to come up here north of the border into Quebec and expose this. But I'm sure there are others, okay, because I was, as I said earlier, I was in my early teens at the time. But I was talking, I asked my mother, did you know about this? And my mother said, Russell, these are stories that I've been hearing about for years, okay? We've heard these stories. There are rumors going around, about nurses sexually assaulting young boys, okay? It was an eye opener for me. So yes, I put that in. These are some of the topics that I insert into Jam Run, because the message I'm trying, the message I'm conveying is that, yes, there are so many people who are against the LGBTQ community, but the truth is that when you discriminate against one community, it will come back and affect all of us. Okay? You deny the rights of one community, whether they're Black, whether they're immigrants from Mexico or from South America or from Central America. When you attack or belittle the Syrians or the Africans who are escaping war and trying to come here, you can discriminate against them, but eventually it's going to hurt everyone. And I gave a perfect example of that in Jam Run, a very realistic example of it. Okay, but no spoilers. I don't want to reveal the spoiler, but these were many of the stories that came to mind when I was writing the story, when I was actually writing the outline, and I was saying to myself, okay, can I incorporate all these stories? These stories aren't related, okay? Like, I'd read one story about this, I'd read one story about this, and then I saw an article in the New Yorker, in the New Yorker, and it caught my attention. It was about a drug kingpin in Jamaica, and what happened when they how did they arrest him, the way they arrested him, basically the fallout from it and everything. And I'm saying to myself, well, these stories are not related, I can't put them in, but then hey, maybe I can. And I said, this is fiction. I could put all of these real life stories that took place in Jamaica, and I could bring it into the story. I can insert it into the plot, and it will be credible because it happened in real life. Readers will believe it because it did happen in real life. And if someone says, no, this could never happen, I say, well, look at the back pages of Jam Run and read the bibliographical notes in the back of Jam Run. There are many, okay? And you tell me why this couldn't have happened in real life, or why this isn't realistic. But yeah, there were several stories about Jamaica, and I put them all in. I just mashed them up, and I created a story. And that's probably one of the reasons why the book is so thick. But in the end, I wanted to create a story where Dwayne Jones's killers, or I should say Dwayne Pottinger, his killers are actually brought to justice.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up, the citations at the end of the book. And I'll mention the acknowledgments too, because it's so funny. Some people think that, just because you're writing fiction, you can make it all up. And that's so not true because there's a basis in reality and you want to achieve some kind of authenticity. And, reading the acknowledgments in a book like this, you really get an appreciation for just how much goes into telling a fictional story that's grounded in that kind of reality. I mean, it is extensive and it's impressive. And I think that, you speaking about your passion for justice, it's obvious to see that that really fuels your creative process and keeps you engaged in the stories that you're telling. And I know that we've spoken about a lot of really unsavory things today, but I know that you mentioned earlier that you also wanted to share a more positive story from your trip to Atlanta. So I was hoping maybe you'll take a moment now to share that with readers.
Okay, yeah. Well, as yeah, as I was discussing with you before, earlier before the recording began, um, one of the, as I said before, as I told others, it's no secret that there is that Jamaica, yes, Jamaica is considered to be a very homophobic nation. And even Time Magazine, I believe, is in 2012. Time Magazine labeled Jamaica as the most homophobic country in the Western Hemisphere. And even their travel advisories for the LGBTQ community worldwide, that if you go to Jamaica, be very, very careful. Okay. Don't hold hands. Don't if you're there if you're a man and you're there with your boyfriend, don't hold hands in public. Don't kiss in public. Same thing goes for women. If it's same-sex couples, don't hold hands in public. Don't draw attention to yourselves, and be wary that there are laws that are designed to oppress and punish gay people, especially gay men, okay, who engage in sexual activity. So one of the things that, like, getting back to the murder of Dwayne Jones, one of the reasons I believe that fueled the apathy surrounding his death, and it's no secret, there are other people who have said this, and you can read several articles about this throughout the years. There is also the culture, the dance. It's found its way into the music. I'm not going to name all the artists, okay, but there are a couple of artists, several artists as far back from the 1990s who would insert homophobic slurs in the music, okay, in their own music. You say boom, bye, bye, and I don't want to say the word, BATTYMAN, okay? And there's also another one, the Chi Man, all these disgusting, slurs, okay? They're in the songs and everything like that. And the songs are very catchy, I'll admit it. You can dance to them. You can dance, you can bounce to them because they're very catchy. And you will sing the songs, but the thing is, in the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica, Jamaicans understand Jamaican patois, so they understand the lyrics. But the thing is that even up here in Montreal, back in the early 2000s, when I used to go out dancing, I don't go clubbing anymore. I grew out of that very, very, very quickly. Okay, I don't do the club scene. I think I did it for about 3 years max before I realized that I wasn't missing anything. And I recall when I used to go to the clubs, okay, and I even went to a gay club a few times. And this is what caught me the most. This is what made it even more, what it shook me up even more, is that even in the gay clubs up here in Montreal, they were playing the same anti-homo, basically the same homophobic songs, okay, from Jamaica, and everyone was dancing, okay, everyone was dancing to it. predominantly white people. They were all dancing, and white and French. They were all dancing to it, but obviously they did not even know the lyrics. Okay, it was only through the efforts of a friend of mine. He's the director general of a human rights organization called CRAR, and even there's another buddy of mine. His name is Richard Bugs Burnett. He's a journalist. He's a gay journalist, and he actually interviewed me. He read Jamron, he enjoyed it, and he interviewed me. It was through their efforts they managed to um, convince the Canadian government, okay, to block the entry of some of these dancehall artists who are coming up here, who wanted to come up here to Montreal to perform, and they were allowed to come here to perform, but they were given a strict warning that, look, we're a progressive society and we have human rights laws, okay? And this is considered hate speech. You would not be able to sing these songs here, okay? If you do sing these songs here, if you defy this order and violate Canada's laws, okay, bye-bye, okay? They made that very clear. So, and even with there was another one, Beanie Man, who I believe he got his one of his shows. This was years ago. Okay, this was years ago. I believe he got one of his shows in Miami. He was barred, or one of his shows was canceled because the LGBTQ community came out in full force to protest, because he wants. This is a long time ago, but it's my understanding that he's changed. Okay, he has changed. He's a new man, and he doesn't even want to talk about the past. Okay, because I believe he's ashamed of what he used to do in the past, and he has grown. He has matured since then. So I believe this is part of the culture, and as I said, it's disturbing that it was even up here in Montreal, in the nightclubs up here, in gay clubs on top of that. No, when I was in Atlanta, I visited Atlanta, and I love Atlanta. I love going to the United States. Okay, I love getting out of this. Well, yeah, it's very hot and very warm and sunny and humid here in the summertime, but things cool down in the fall and especially in the winter. So yeah, if I can get down to the United States where summer lasts a little bit longer than it does up here, hey, I'm gonna go. And one of my favorite destination spots is Atlanta, Georgia. I have friends down there, I have family there, and I love the city. I love the people. They're very warm, they're very friendly. I mean, I feel like I can just go up to anybody in the supermarket and say, "Good morning, how you doing?" And they'll say hi back, And when I see I was joking. The last time, actually, the last time I was in Atlanta, when I got to the airport, I took out my cell phone. The very first thing I posted on my Facebook page, I said, "Wow, I'm in Atlanta and I don't feel like a visible minority anymore."
That says something, right?
And right here, I felt, I felt I was able to blend in. Of course, until I start speaking, then everyone knows, oh, he ain't from around here. So, but I was with a friend of mine, and I happened to be down there for Black Pride, and there was a big festival going on in Piedmont Park, and yeah, everyone was there. I saw children running around, um, their grown-ups, everyone was there. Their families there, and of course, it was obviously um, there are a lot of people from the LGBTQ community who were there also. And I remember hearing the song, um, what's the name of the group again? Hold on a second. I'm just gonna look it up. Okay. The song is by the group TOK, okay? And it's called Chi Chi Man. And that song, one of the DJs started to play that song, and it blasted through all the speakers. And the thing is, one thing I noticed, that I was walking, and when I heard that song come on, I just froze because I knew the lyrics. I know what those words meant. Okay. But it obviously did not bother anybody else because everyone carried on as though everything was normal. Okay. So what I did is I approached the DJ. Okay. I approached him very friendly. Okay. I wasn't hostile. I was very friendly. And I just go, hey, brother, how you doing? By the way, I'm just curious. Do you know what these guys are actually saying? Okay. Do you understand the words of what they're actually saying? And DJ go, no, what are they saying? Well, what I did is I went on Google and I just did a search for the song with the lyrics. And I showed the lyrics. Here's the translation. Here's the English translation from Jamaican patois. This is what they're really saying. And he looked at it and he goes, oh, sorry, but I didn't know. He admitted he didn't know. Okay, he thanked me. He thanked me for informing him of this. I said, when it comes to dance hall, okay, you have to be very, very careful, especially the old dance hall from the early 2000s and the 1990s. You have to be very careful, okay, because I know this is a family event, but this is also Black Pride, so there are a lot of gays and lesbians at this in the park today, and obviously, they don't even realize what they were listening to was a homophobic anthem, okay, which basically is basically that song they were saying, burn gay people, set them on fire, okay, burn. That's what they're saying, okay. So obviously nobody there knows the lyrics of that song. So I just had to say my piece, and he understood, he accepted, and he told me he was never going to play that song ever again.
Wow, that's excellent. I mean, that's such a poignant example, though, of a teachable moment gone well. Everybody held, had it responsibly, and then you got a good result. I think there's something to be learned in that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear that, a place like Atlanta, that is there. There are peaceful, accepting people, and I think we all need that reminder. And I think that's a nice counterbalance to some of the other discussion that we had today. And I'm going to start to wind things down because I could talk to you all night. You'll be asleep at your computer pretty soon.
No, I'm having a great time. I don't know
I am learning a lot.
Oh my goodness.
I did want to ask you, we were joking and you were saying that, unlike Eddie Barrows, who in the first book, there's sort of a publicity stunt gone very, very wrong that brings a lot of attention to him and not necessarily the good kind.
Yeah.
That is not your career path. You are all about putting in the hard work to get the product that you want. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind reflecting on your creative or writing life for a few moments. And can you tell us what is the best advice that you were ever given in terms of a life in writing or creativity? And then the best advice that you were never given and had to learn for yourself throughout the process of actually doing all this work?
Okay. Well, I can say that the first part of your question is a very easy answer to give. I'm talking about back before I wrote my first novel. When back in the days of before Facebook, there was MySpace. I don't know if you remember those days there. I was actually friended by Joseph Finder. Okay. New York Times bestselling author Joseph Finder. I guess I don't know if it was actually him. I imagine it was may have been him or maybe someone he hired to, help grow his fan base. And he approached me on my page and he said, "Wow," because I didn't put my real age. I put my age as I think I put my age as 96. And he opened up with a joke. "Wow, you look really good for a 96-year-old man." And that's when we got into a chat. And the best advice he gave me is, Russell, the best way you can become a better writer is to never stop writing. Never stop writing. Okay. just keep writing. And simple as that. Okay. And I mean, and as for the best advice that I was never given that I had to figure out on my own is, well, what could that be? Like, all I can say is, yeah, research. Research is very important. Research, re- researching a novel before writing it adds credibility to the author. And one of the things I realize is that even though I've never dealt with explosives like C4, I've never fired a gun. I've never, well, yeah, I have beaten up someone, but that was back in elementary school. But I mean, I've never engaged in in martial arts combat with someone where I picked them up and threw them through a wall, or gave them a karate kick, or like that, and knocked them out, or strangled someone. I've never done any of those things. I've never done anything criminal. Okay, so if you've never done anything before, okay, something like that, it's important to research, okay? Because one thing I did learn is, like, I don't like to badmouth other authors, okay? But I read the Da Vinci Code, okay? It was the first book by Dan Brown that I read, and I enjoyed it. Then I read Angels and Demons. I enjoyed that one too. But then I read another book from Dan Brown called The Lost Symbol. And when I read that, I was like, this story deals with the CIA, okay? And I'm reading this and I said, the CIA doesn't do that. No, they don't do that. I said, no, that's not what the CIA doesn't have a SWAT team. It's called the Special Activities Division, okay? And I'm saying to myself, another scene where there was another scene where Robert Langston and I forget the girl he was with, they were in the DC Metro trying to escape this SWAT team, okay? And the leader of the group flashes a CIA badge to the Metro operator and says, CIA, stop the train, we're commandeering this train. And I was saying, what? No, 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 no. The CIA does not operate on American soil in an official capacity, and they certainly would not be flashing a badge advertising themselves, okay? They wouldn't be doing that. And the only people that could be doing that is either the DC police or the FBI, okay? They're the only ones who have the authority to do that. And there was another scene that just like, I nearly closed the book and returned to the library, because there was another scene where there was a CIA operative, okay? He left his gun behind or something like that. And I think Robert Langston or someone found it and said, oh, the CIA was here. Here's the gun with their emblem on the gun. I said, oh my gosh. I said, I said to myself, how is it that Dan Brown's editor didn't catch all these obvious mistakes? Okay, I mean, these are not tiny things that maybe the average reader will look over. But when I wrote Pandora's Succession, I knew the importance of, if I was going to be credible, I had to make sure that I did my research. Okay, because back then I was trying to be picked up by a publisher, and I queried several agents, and there are many agents that requested to read the full manuscript, and then they came back and said, "No, I don't think we don't have a I don't have a publisher. I don't know anyone who wants this at the time. It's not the right book at the time." Okay, so I'm saying to myself, how is it that Dan Brown can make so many mistakes and still be a New York Times best-selling author? And meanwhile, I do my research and I make sure I dot all my T's and cross all my T's and dot all my I's. And I even as I say with the Demeter Code, I went even further and consulted with specialists. I went as far as consulting with a university professor in microbiology at Sussex University, okay, over in England. And I found him because I was trying to research some of the content, and I stumbled on a scientific article that this professor wrote. Okay, so I contacted him because I needed help creating a fictitious biological weapon. And he goes, "Oh boy, I love this." And he helped me. Okay, so I did all that, and I can't get a publisher. Just imagine how I felt reading this book here, seeing all these. For me, there are obvious factual errors. Okay, factual errors. I mean, that just don't make any sense. It was just so frustrating to see that this guy could become a millionaire from being an author and very poor researcher, okay? And yet, me, who does research, and I can't, I'm not at the same level. So this is something that I realized was very important. I said, I don't want to be, I don't want to be like Dan Brown, okay? I don't want to be the person, the author who just writes and writes and writes, publishes a book without fact checking the content. For me, it's important to, if you want to build credibility, it's important to do your research. Okay, read from the right sources, and even reach out to the authors of, like, for instance, I was reading scientific articles. Okay, to for the content, I reach out to the authors. Okay, because they're the experts who can verify everything. Even in Jamrun, I reached out to, like, first of all, I don't know Jamaican patois, but I wanted Jamrun to be as Jamaican as possible, as authentically Jamaican as possible, so that it does not sound like a North American caricature of Jamaica. Because if I did that, trust me, um, once Jamaicans or West Indians, okay, from either from the Caribbean or from up here or from Great Britain, read this, and trust me, they're going to be the first ones to let me know that no, Jamaicans don't talk like that. That is not Jamaican patois. I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but I don't want to offend or insult anyone. I also consulted with the assistant director of public prosecutions in Jamaica, and her name is Miss Edwards. Oh boy, I forgot her first name. It'll come back to me. Her last name is Miss Edwards, and she's a very nice lady. And it was important to fact check the laws in Jamaica, because the laws up here in Canada, or I should say in Quebec, are different from Jamaica, very different. So I have to make sure that, since I'm dealing with police procedurals, I have to make sure that it's factually correct, Jamaican style. Okay, these are things that are important to establish credibility for an author. Now, I may not be James Patterson or Stephen King today, but the thing is that just keep writing, as Joseph Finder told me, and as I taught myself, keep on researching and keep on fact checking. Okay, establish myself as a credible expert in the content that I'm writing about. And that's probably the single best advice I can give to any author, especially if you're a beginning author.
That is excellent advice, because it's funny. You don't know what you don't know, but you can know it, and there will be readers that know it, and they're going to tell you if you got it wrong. So, excellent
Exactly.
advice. Just remember, Russell Brooks is going to read your book, and he's going to know, and then he's going to tell you. All right. So let me ask you, last question for you. Jam Run is fresh out now, and obviously this was a labor of love. But I'm wondering, I know that you have quite an extensive generative process, and it takes a while to think out what your next book is going to be. But is there anything that you feel comfortable teasing at this point as to what might come next from you?
Well, I can say that I can confidently say that Eddie Barrow and his best friend Corey Stephenson will return in the future, and it will be. I can't tell you what they're going to be investigating, who they're going to be running away from. But once you read through Jam Run, I leave a couple of hints. Okay, I leave a couple of clues. Okay, so that you know that they're going to be back again. And of course, my next book will be, I will be returning to the Ridley Fox Nita Paris series. And I can tell you that this story will pick up where the Demeter Code left off. Okay.
Excellent. Something to look forward to. But in the meantime, you got to pick up Russell Brooks's Jam Run. It is available right now. You know, it's funny. You're going to think this will take you a while to read while Russell's writing those books, but you're going to be done with it in like a handful of days. And then we're all just going to be sitting there waiting for you, Russell. Waiting, waiting, waiting. But I know from experience, it will be worth it. Thank you so much, my friend, for being here. It was such a pleasure to chat with you in real time.
All right. Well, it was great to finally meet you for the first time and talk to you for the first time too, John. So I'm looking forward to doing this again.
That's it for this episode of Central Booking. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing.